everyone, this is Harry from Hotspur TV here, and as you can tell, I'm very happy. So this is like a short match reaction slash, but this is mainly actually not a match reaction, mainly on my thoughts on Harry Kane because, as you guys all know, he broke Greaves' record yesterday, and yeah, and now he's Spurs' all-time top goal scorer. And I think it's crazy to think the Harry Kane thing that a player who most 99% of fans, 90% of fans kind of wrote off as a player on his debut. Someone who came from the academy as well. Um, to break the all-time top goal scoring record at Tottenham is no mean feat, considering obviously Jimmy Greaves was the person that was ahead of him. And especially in a game like this as well, Man City, where we had to sort of win. It was a big game. We haven't beaten one of the big six in a very long time, especially this season. And then we had to win the game. But let's just talk about Harry Kane for a second. And this video is mainly just aimed just to talk about Harry Kane. And this is kind of like not my story with Harry Kane, but sort of how I've like watched it unfold as a Spurs fan, and also just how kind of obviously we share the same name, right? I'm Harry and he's Harry Kane, and I'm actually wearing a Harry Kane shirt right now. And just my thoughts of him as a player, what for me makes him so different from everyone else, and his story so different from everyone else. So I'm going to take you guys back to the Harry Redknapp era, actually. So there was a kid who played in the Europa League under Harry Redknapp, and if I don't recall, it's I think in the 2012 season, 2011-2012 season, when we actually finished fourth but missed out on the Champions League because of Chelsea winning it. Now during that season, I think we played a few Europa League games, and Redknapp would make a lot of changes in the team, and Harry Kane actually was one of the players and the youngsters that he kind of played. And I think Kane, if I don't recall, he actually missed a penalty in one of those Europa League games. And also his first goal was against Shamrock Rovers, and if I'm not wrong, I think it was away from home. But at the beginning, obviously, he was just a young player coming through. I think at the time he was probably about 18 or something like that. And obviously, you can't really I don't think, make much conclusions from those early games. Now, further down the line, obviously we had AVB in between that. I think Kane made a few appearances, but nothing, that great. Um, and he was loaned out under Redknapp, I think, to Norwich before that. Late Orient, because that's like the standard thing. He goes to Late Orient. Spurs players seem to go there. On loans, I think he had a loan at Millwall. He even ironically played at Leicester with Jamie Vardy for a short period of time, but whether they started together or not, I can't recall. But there was a load of failed loans, unlike someone like Townsend, who went out on loan, actually impressed, came back and got into the first team a lot quicker than Harry Kane. Tom Carroll's another example of that, of a player who I think he was older than him. I'm not sure by how much, but he came back, and I think they were both in the same sort of youth team, and he actually made a few starts. If you remember, Tom Carroll was the guy who assisted Bale for that famous goal at West Ham. But if you can, in those periods of years, Kane was around the team, but he wasn't really in it. Now, Mr. Second to None, Tim Sherwood was actually the man who gave Kane his big break, and he played him with Adebayor, I think, for a period. If you guys don't recall, in the 2013, Kane came on at Old Trafford and whacked the ball out. You remember that? It's a bit of a laugh, isn't it? And we ended up winning that game 3-2. So he came on as like a substitute. But the first manager to actually give Kane his proper break, you could argue, is Tim Sherwood. Now, obviously that summer came and went when Sherwood was there in the end of that 2013 season, 2014 season, because obviously that was a failed project under AVB. And I think I remember seeing this. So Harry Kane signed a new contract under Pochettino, if I don't recall, in like his first year he was there. So the club obviously had high hopes for him at the time, but no one could have obviously foreseen what would have happened. But there's one thing I do remember about Kane when I saw personally, I saw a change in him as a player. Now, in a pub in Wood Green on a really really bad stream, which is probably not allowed nowadays, I watched Spurs play a Greek team. I can't remember the team off the top of my head, but we were playing them in like a qualifier for Europa League, and Kane played off the left hand side in like a 4-2-3-1. Obviously, this was Pochettino's one or two games. I think it might even be the first game. And Kane played on the left. Now, during that match, I saw like a massive change in Kane as a player. He was cutting. He just looked completely different. Like faster. He his shots and his crossing was a lot more accurate. Bearing in mind he was playing on the left hand side, he seemed to just be a lot more dynamic. Yeah, he was just. I remember just watching that game thinking Kane was a completely different player. And I remember telling one of my friends further down the line that I thought Kane was going to be like a big player for us that year in Pochettino's first year. And obviously, at the time, we also had Soldado and Adebayor still. And obviously, that was the dressing room was a bit fractured. I think Kabul was even the captain of the club for a period of time, which many people tend to forget. And as you guys all remember this, Aston Villa away, after Kane was banging the goals in the Europa League and Soldado was obviously struggling in the league. Now, whilst in Europa League, Kane looked like really good, but we have to also consider that this is like very early in his like stardom when he's playing Europa League, banging like hat tricks, a couple goals here and there, and the teams he was playing against weren't like the best. But at the same time, because we had such huge striker problems at the time with Soldado and Adebayor and whoever other option, like I think that was one of our only options really. Kane was sort of like pushed into the more the limelight in the Spurs fan base, and obviously we were just saying just play Harry Kane because he's doing well in the Europa League. Now eventually Pochettino relented, brought on Harry Kane. I can't remember who it was for away to Villa, and this game kind of sort of saved Pochettino's job. Let's be honest. He took a free kick. It's ironic we're going to talk about free kicks later, and it took a massive deflection and he scored away to Villa, and we ended up winning the game in the end. Since then, since that game, Kane became a first team player. He was really really good, and I'm not saying that's the end of the story, but there's a few moments from that moment I think were very significant for him. New Year's Day 2015 or 14. I hope I didn't get the year wrong. Harry Kane against Chelsea in the 5-3. Now the goal he scored to score in that, I think it was the equaliser actually in that game. Yeah, it was the equaliser. Was something completely special. He cuts in off the left, goes past three players, cuts in a bit more, and he hits on his right foot into bottom left. And then they had no chance. We won the game 5-3. We were 3-1 up at half time. And Kane, but that Kane first goal, he got two that day. The first one was just unbelievable. Let's get on to with Harry Kane against Arsenal, because obviously some Arsenal fans were watching this and saying, "Oh, well, Kane came from our academy." Well, yeah, he did, but he loves scoring against Arsenal. He still does. And obviously in his first North London derby, when we played them at home, he got that amazing header from cross on Bentaleb. Yeah, yeah, Harry Kane. Another significant moment in Kane's journey was the season after, of course, when Spurs were pushing to, I said, sort of challenge for the league, because we sort of were in it but weren't, against Leicester, and Kane scored that amazing cut in off the left against Arsenal again, and he banged it in. Now, ironically, with that season, many people thought Kane was going to be like a one-season wonder, because obviously we've seen this a lot with English strikers. They come through. I can give a lot of examples off the top of my head, but there's a lot of strikers that come through. They have one good season in the league, and then just peter out. And at the start of that season, that Spurs challenged Leicester, Kane was actually not scoring for like the first month or two, and he finally got that goal. I can't remember who it was against, and suddenly the floodgates just started opening again. And again, he was like one of the top scorers in the country. But again, the significant goals that season, like I recall, yeah, he scored a goal against Arsenal away as well. Arsenal at home, the cut in the 2-2. Unfortunately, that was kind of the game which for me killed our title charge, because we didn't hold on to the win. We could have gone top if we won that game 2-1 instead of drawing 2-2. But again, Kane was brilliant. Season after that, again, Kane was amazing. He just kept going from strength to strength. And I think you also need to look at Kane's sort of, not success with England, but he's the England captain, which says a lot. But just Kane, and let's go with Kane as a player, right? He can score any kind of goal, a header, a cross shot, which is, I call that his signature Harry Kane goal, right? I call left foot, right foot, volley, dribble, pass, and shoot. Headers, he's amazing. I mean, Kane as a penalty taker is hand on heart. He's the best penalty taker I've ever seen, not just at Tottenham, but I think ever in my lifetime. I think Kane. I know he's only missed. Maybe I think he missed obviously that penalty against France in the World Cup, but 99% of the time, Kane will score a penalty. As for the free kicks, we all know that it's not great. But I think with Kane, again, with him as a player, just in general, when he broke through, he was more just a finisher. But when he works hard with the training pitch and even does extra drills because he just loves scoring goals. But also with him, his passing is just unbelievable for a striker. It's incredible. And his general just all-round play for me makes him the best number 9 in the world. I don't care what anyone says. A lot of people make Paul say Haaland, but I just think Haaland's just more of a finisher. And Kane, he deserves to get this as the all-time Tottenham goal scorer because, of course, like I said, he's loves scoring goals. But I think with Kane, that's very special. Is that obviously he came from the academy, but also a lot of people wrote him off. And I think for him to get this far is just mental. If you think about it, it's just mental. Considering where he was, all these failed loans, all these people write him off saying he's too slow, and then he went and made himself faster. Obviously, under Mourinho got probably one of, or if not the best season out of him, was a top goal scorer and top assister in the same season in the Premier League, which is amazing. And him and Son obviously have this connection. This season not being as strong, but for me, Kane makes Son twice the player because without Kane, Son doesn't score half his goals, and it's just incredible to have witnessed that. Obviously, I went to the game. And I saw Kane score that goal. It was just, and obviously the 267 came up on the screen, but it's incredible, and I'm sure he's going to break Shearer's record, 100%. But Kane is like a special player. As people nowadays love to call it, he's generational. Like the chance of us seeing another player like Harry Kane is actually very slim. Um, Obviously Spurs have all these youngsters coming through like Dane Scarlett and Troy Parrott, but Kane is just. And I think the thing that makes him so significant is his work ethic. It's just incredible. His positioning, his football brain, he just knows where to be. His hold up play is just amazing. As a number 9, his finishing clinical. He's just he loves scoring goals, and he's a Tottenham Hotspur legend. He's literally, like I said, generational player, one of the best players I've ever seen live, and I feel blessed that I actually was there yesterday to actually watch that goal and to be there when he broke the record. But I think another thing about Kane that I just want to finish off on is that it's almost, to me, when I was growing up, I saw strikers like Berbatov, Defoe, Keane, who I actually met yesterday. Who they had, like obviously Teddy Sheringham. He often gets compared to Teddy Sheringham. Obviously had the strikers like Les Ferdinand, but when we talk about the good strikers, obviously Kane was obviously sort of in the end of the Bale era as well. And the reason I bring this up is because I think Kane, what was very significant about him as his all round game, if you look, he's kind of picked up like significant things from past Spurs strikers that he was like surrounded by. So like I mentioned Robbie Keane here, right? Robbie Keane obviously liked to drop deep and play his passes and stuff like that, right? And Kane picked up of Keane, maybe stuff like that. And look at someone like Berbatov, his control and his hold-up play was probably one of the best I've ever seen at White Hart Lane. And Kane sort of picked that up as well. And you look at Defoe, who Kane actually loved Defoe. Defoe used to cut in off the left most of the time because he's right-footed and hit it in the bottom corner or top corner. Ironically, I'm going to bring this up because obviously Defoe scored that amazing goal, I remember, in the 3-1 win against Man City under AVB when he cuts it off the right. Now, Kane's signature thing is that as well. So I think what's significant about Kane is he sort of represents every Spurs striker in a sense, combined into one, all the best parts of them into one player. And obviously, as a Spurs boy, it makes it even more significant. But I do think he picked up over his career significant things from other Spurs strikers he was like surrounded by. Obviously, like I said, he always gets compared to Terry Sheringham because Terry Sheringham sort of played as a 10, but not actually a 10. But I think with Kane, he's sort of playing like two roles at once, which is why I always argue if Kane never left Tottenham, we need at least two players to replace him, like a playmaker and a striker, maybe even another striker, because obviously his goal return is just so high. and to replicate that is going to be almost impossible within one player. But Kane is just, he's generational. Like I said, I feel blessed that actually was there to see it, that goal, and he's just the most complete striker in the world, one of the best ever Spurs players ever. He's, like I said, he's like a combination of all the other past Spurs strikers into one, and it's Harry Kane, Tottenham Hotspur legend.